Well, hello everyone. This is Denise McPherson of Denise and Stewart, and Stewart is actually just manning the StreamYard cast right now for us. But we're back on tonight because we have a very special guest that we want to bring on. We're going to have Barry McGuire, who is a lawyer, has been a lawyer, I believe, for 48 years, if my memory doesn't fail me. He's a lawyer, he's an educator, he's a trainer, he's also a real estate investor himself. And we're going to be welcoming Barry in just a moment. Well, hello there, Barry.
Hello, Denise. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to come and talk about real estate, which, of course, I love to talk about.
I know, and we've had many chats over the years too on various stuff, and it's always a pleasure to get your insights and your advice because you come with many years of experience. That's for sure.
I do, yeah. I'm at the point, Denise, where I don't even want to talk about how many years that is. No.
Well, you've got lots of wisdom. You've got lots of wisdom, and that's why we like talking to you. But you know what? What I wanted for us to talk about tonight is there's a special session coming up April 1st. And I just wanted people to know it's not an April Fool's joke. It's actually happening. And there's a special training happening in Toronto, of which Barry is actually hosting that training in Toronto. And you're also going to have a focused team that is going to be helping along, I believe.
Yes, we are.
It's a absolutely special training on agreements for sale.
Agreements for sale.
And you know what? The question that I always find that most people don't understand, and maybe we can start there, is they confuse it between agreements of purchase and sale and agreement for sale, which they're two totally different strategies.
Different. They are. The agreement of purchase and sale is what the standard real estate purchase contract in Ontario is called. If you look at any contract that the realtor puts in front of you, it'll say agreement of purchase and sale right across the top. That's the name of the contract. Mm-hmm. So that's the agreement of purchase and sale. The agreement for sale is a creative real estate strategy, and it's also a document. The creative real estate strategy part of it is that when you operate under an agreement for sale, you are getting seller financing from whoever you are buying the property from. And the document part of the agreement for sale is the terms of what the deal is between you and the seller. It kind of looks like a mortgage. So the agreement for sale is, it's really at its heart, it's a seller financing strategy. And so it's important for buyers, especially who have run into financing difficulties because their bank won't give them any more mortgages, or perhaps they can't save enough for a deposit. You know, when your lender says, great, I'll give you a mortgage, but it's 20% of 800,000, you know, that's a lot of money to have in your jeans to put up to buy a property. And, on occasion with the agreement for sale strategy, you can do no money down deals. So seller financing, perhaps no money down. What's not to like about that as a real estate investor?
Well, exactly, because even now, anytime that anyone looks into an income property of any kind, they're looking at 20% down when you're a real estate investor, period. Yeah. And like you said, it's a good chunk of change. And what if you could lessen that amount that is needed to get into a property? You know, I've had people say, oh, that's just a VTB, seller financing. And the answer is, no, it's not.
You're right, Denise. The answer is no, it's not. Now, a VTB is also seller financing.
Yeah. And
back in the day when you had to put up 50%, 50%, before the bank would give you a 50% mortgage, sellers who were looking to sell often had very few buyers who could get a mortgage. And so sellers had to provide seller financing, and they did it either through the VTB, where title transfers to the new buyer.
As a vendor take back. Just we'll say it because, we use acronyms. Sometimes it's hard for people. Yeah.
Say that. Yes, the vendor take back mortgage, VTB. Yeah. So seller is off the title. He has his mortgage as security. With the AFS, the agreement for sale, the seller's name remains on title, and sellers like that. Sellers often don't mind as much being your bank when their name is still on the title, even though you as an AFS buyer have a full 100% beneficial interest in the property.
And basically that 100% beneficial interest is basically they're responsible for everything, aren't they?
Yes, if you were a seller and you had a situation that an AFS applied to, and you wonder what the heck is it all about, and what am I going to do as the buyer? I would say, Denise, I am going to make you a payment that will be enough to pay your mortgage if you had a mortgage. I will pay the taxes, I will pay the insurance, and I will take care of all of the maintenance on the property. So sellers want to hear that if somebody's buying, that's what a buyer normally has to do, is they're responsible. But you have to tell them and show them that, in fact, you will do all those things.
But I know, a lot of times what happens is like, why would anybody do this? And there are so many scenarios as to when somebody could use that tactic. And I think the thing is with real estate investors is the more knowledge you have, the better it is to recognize some of those opportunities that are out there and how you can use different strategies to be able to grow your portfolio.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that, Denise. Whenever you're looking at employing any kind of a creative strategy, if as the investor, you don't understand what that strategy is or how it works, how are you going to recognize an opportunity? So if you understand the strategy, you will recognize the opportunities when they show up, for sure.
Yeah. You know what? I know we said April 1st because this special training is going to be going on April 1st, and you are actually going to be spending a full day on Saturday, this coming Saturday, as a matter of fact, talking about agreements for sale. And people will get to find out all the ins and outs. They're going to get the contracts. They're going to get everything that is required to be able to do this strategy. But people may not quite know, well, how do I use this? And I'm going to tell you a scenario, and I'd like to maybe you to tell me how this could possibly apply in this, because this is a situation that we may come across right now because of the current market that we're in. There's going to be some people that have overbought on their properties because the rates are so cheap. Now they're getting to the point maybe they're going to have to refinance and they can't afford their mortgage. There's all kinds of scenarios, but this is a scenario that actually happened. A person wanted to sell their house because they were moving out of country. What they found that there was going to be a cost for breaking that mortgage because they had a fixed interest rate mortgage. And it was going to cost them $38,000 to break that mortgage because they still had 2 years left on that mortgage. $38,000 plus the cost of a realtor to sell that property. And like this happened a few years ago, but if it was happening today, which it could very easily happen today, how could possibly an agreement for sale come into this picture and help out?
Well, let's since we know what the penalty was to break the mortgage, the interest rate differential penalty was $38,000. For if you know the price of the sale price of the property, what it would have gone.
It was around 600, I believe. Oh, I had to think it was probably around 450 if I recall. We're going back a few years too, right? So they definitely would have been higher. I think it was around 450, something like that at the time. Okay,
well, let's do 500 because I can do easier math in my head.
Right.
I think the standard real estate commission, obviously you can negotiate, but is it not 5% of the sale price in Ontario?
5%, yeah.
5%. So 5% of 500,000 is 25,000. 25,000 plus 38,000 is $63,000. So as an owner of a property who is moving out of country and you're looking to sell your property and you talk to your friendly realtor and your friendly banker, they give you those numbers. And, what if the value of your property is kind of right where it was when you bought it because the market has been kind of flat? What if you had a 5% CMHC mortgage on a $500,000 property? That's a mortgage of $475 plus CMHC fees of $10,000. The mortgage would start out at about $485,000. And if the market has blipped downwards 5%, the property is worth $475 and the mortgage is $485. And you talk to your realtor and your banker and they go $38,000 here, $25,000 there. You go, so I'll sell it I'll only get $475. The mortgage is $485. Plus, I got to stroke a check for $63,000. That's a total of $73,000 at least to sell the property. That is not a pretty picture for any seller in that situation. Not a pretty picture at all. So I'm just going to have a little sip of tea here to soothe my throat, which is a little sore. So if you were the seller of that property, and you and I were chatting, Denise, and after we worked on the numbers and we figured out the values and whether the property would work for me or not, or work for you for not, and we added up the numbers, I was going, Denise, sorry, but this is a good property. I would take it off your hands, but what about the $73,000 that you're going to have to pay? And Denise is going, I hate this. This is no good. I go, okay, Denise, I'll tell you what. I will take this property and put it in my portfolio. And what I'll do is I will make your mortgage payment. I will pay the taxes. I will pay the insurance. I will make sure the property is lovely and maintained. And I can buy it from you for, and we can pick a number. If I'm being really a tough negotiator, I might say I can only pay the market value of $475. If the property works for me, I can take that property and rent it out on a positive cash flow basis. I might say, Denise, you know what? Since you're going to be my bank, I'll tell you what, I'll pay you $485. And then you're out of it for zero. You're not paying the $38,000 to the bank. You're not paying the $25,000 to the realtor. And all of a sudden you have an exit to a property. Now you're not getting any money out of it, but on the other hand, you were going to write checks for $73,000 possibly. So when a seller has looked around and they know, they've talked to realtors about what's going on, and the realtor kind of shuffles and shimmies, and at the end of the conversation goes, I'm a realtor, and I do get paid commission. That's how I get paid. And you do know you have no equity in your property.
That makes it tough.
There's no equity. And then there's that silence where everybody goes, yeah, right. What are we going to do? So that's a win-win for both parties. As an investor, I get to acquire another property for no money down. This is a property that on analysis is going to work for me in my portfolio. You on your end have an exit that you've been agonizing over because you don't have the ability to write a check for $73,000. Who wants to do that? So it's a win-win where you get an exit and I get a property and everybody gets something that's important to them. So that's the classic low equity, no equity situation. Now that hasn't been happening in Ontario for a while, but you did have that case.
Yeah, that did happen. Like I said, several years ago, how it was done, because this at the time, I didn't know about agreements for sale back then, and we're talking many years ago. But what the person ended up doing is renting the property at a $200 loss per month for the 2 years until the mortgage was came to maturity, at which point they were able to sell then and time it at that point, and then did not have to pay that penalty.
Sure.
But
so
it was tough, but it was easier to lose on the $2,400 a year than it was to pay $38,000 extra.
Yeah. They saved themselves $33,200 by doing that. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, exactly.
A good solution, although it upset their travel plans, I guess, if they wanted to. You've got that hanging on and you've got to rent it. So that's the classic low equity, no equity situation. But that's not the only place that an agreement for sale shows up. It's seller financing.
So many, right? There's so many different ways. And I think you're aware, I think, of one that was been done in Ottawa, even right here, right?
Yes, I am. And we're going to be going into that in great detail on Saturday. This is such a great story. And the student who put this deal together is going to be in Toronto on Saturday. And we're going to get him up on stage, and we are going to get him to just spill all the juicy details of how he put together this amazing deal. But I can talk about it now because it is so interesting. People say, you can't do agreements for sale in Ontario. We've never heard of that. Well, it's just in a rising market. Who needs seller financing when you can bash a stake in your lawn and have 10 offers over list? Like it doesn't work. But when the market is volatile or a little bit flat, that's when agreements for sale work really well. But let's talk about this situation. So this was a student who came out to do our agreements for sale course in September of 2022. September of 2022. And there were a number of people from Toronto who came out, and they all sat at one table, and they all were sitting there kind of grumpy for quite a while with their arms like this, kind of like that. They were asking pretty good questions, a knowledgeable group. And finally I said, why are you guys so grumpy? What's going on? Are you not enjoying the program? And they went, oh, sorry, we're waiting for the upsell. I said, what do you mean? Well, we're waiting for you to sell into your coaching program or whatever other thing you're selling. When are you, we're just waiting for that because everybody does that. And I went, we don't do that. You come to our course, you pay the registration cost. That's it. So they brightened up considerably and got into it. And then when this one particular student went back to Ottawa, where he lives, he talked to his realtor and explained the agreement for sale strategy. Realtor said, I've never heard of this. Sounds pretty sketchy to me. But our student is not to be deterred, and he keeps talking to the realtor and talking to the realtor and talking to the realtor. Finally, the realtor says, you know what? There's a situation here in Ottawa, in the Glebe, which is a lovely area. Is it not, Denise?
Yes, it is. And it's a high-valued area, too.
High-value area. People want to live there. There's a builder there who built a triplex, and he overpaid for the property when he bought it. He bought it at the height of the market. Costs have been up for him in his construction. He's short of money. He really needs to exit this property, and so he wants to sell it. So they start to look at the property. So it's a triplex. It's got an unfinished suite in the basement, an illegal suite, a non-conforming suite. Which is giving everybody heartburn because what are you going to do with that? And the builder wanted $2.5 million. He wanted $2.5 million for this triplex. Now, what he had for financing was he had an existing first mortgage at $1.3 million, 1.3. And he had a line of credit, a HELOC at $400,000. So that's 1.7. Remember, as an AFS buyer, you're looking for the seller to be your lender for most or all of the money. So there's still some work that needs to be done on the property. And the realtor says, this AFS thing is kind of good, but if it's not going to actually mature and pay out for 3 years, how am I going to get paid my $120,000 commission? I don't really like it very much if I'm not going to get paid. So because it looked to our student that he probably would be able to legalize that basement suite, the value of the property was going up. It wasn't quite determined what it was going to be, and everybody was a little shaky on what the numbers were going to be. But the student says, okay, you got a $1.3 million mortgage. You got a $400,000 HELOC. That's 1.7. I want you to put a second mortgage on the property for another $400,000. And the seller goes, well, how can I do that? And our student says, because I think if we can legalize that basement suite, which we could probably rent for, I think, $3,500 a month, that will pop the value up from 2.5 to some other number, like 3.2 million. And by the way, the builder is getting offers of 1.6, 1.65, which is really his financing. The Sharks were circling because they could tell he was wounded and he didn't quite know what he was going to do. So the seller says, well, okay, all right, I'll try and do that. We'll see if we can do that. And now there's another $400,000 left. So 1.3, $400,000 HELOC, $400,000 second. And the seller says, okay, well, I will carry that last $400,000. You have to 0%. You have to pay me out when the AFS matures in, I can't remember how long it was, a couple of years. So now, if you add up all those numbers, it's $2.5 million. It's $2.5 million. And have you noticed that the student has not put up any money yet? hasn't put up any money yet. So the cash in this deal is coming out of the $400,000 second. And what happened to that? The seller put the mortgage on, and he got $200,000 of that money. The realtor got $120,000 of that money, and our student got an acquisition fee of $80,000, and that used up the $400,000 second. Because of Bill 23 in Ontario, that's the renowned Mr. Ford's statement that he's going to build 1.5 million new houses or new units. It had a whole bunch of other things attached to it, including making it easier for people to add suites to properties. And so the real key here was that basement suite turned out to be one that you could legalize. And if you could legalize it and add that extra income stream of around $3,500 a month, now the building is worth $3.2 million. That makes the second mortgage go. And so that's how the deal closed. Now our student owns a property worth $3.2 million, totally financed. He got $80,000 out of it, and it's positive cash flow. And he got $700,000 instant equity.
I mean, these are amazing stories.
Yes.
They really are. And the whole thing, I guess, with being a real estate investor is knowing all these extra strategies. I mean, when people first start in real estate, right, they think of buy, rent, and hold, and that's the only thing they can think of. You've got to start expanding that knowledge, because had he not known about agreement for sale, that would have been, well, the guy might have had to, I don't know, dispose of his property at a 1.5 or a 1.3 whatever million and lose out on a fair bit.
Everybody would have lost if our student didn't come along with knowing about the agreement for sale strategy. So agreements for sale and other creative strategies are usually problem solving techniques. They work best when the person across the table from you has a problem that needs solving and you have the answer, and you can do it in a win-win way. So,
and that was going to be the key word there, win-win way, because for us, if you can't create win-win, then just don't do it.
No. You and I and Stuart and Donna absolutely think the same way there. We do not beat people up. We do not take advantage. In fact, I have another story if you want to hear one.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. This is on the not beating people up side of things and seller motivation. So that's another thing about creative strategies. I don't know how many times you've heard this, but I've heard it a whole bunch of times. Why would any seller do that? That's just crazy. That's no seller would do that. Well, the fact is, sellers do what they think they should do, that to them feels like the right thing to do, and it feels like a win-win thing to do. And they don't do what you might think they should do from the position of being some third-party, non-involved observer. Well, if you hadn't got yourself into that trouble, well, you wouldn't have to do this. But seller motivation is always surprising. And here's how it fits into this story. So this was a different student, and this is in Calgary. She had taken, I think, the RCP course. And then after the course, she was marketing to sellers. Do you have a problem getting divorced, lost your job? Do you need to sell quickly? I can help. And so she got a call from a young lady who worked in Calgary. Now, this young lady was kind of a bit of a loner, a bit of a, not really social. She had 2 big dogs. And what she really wanted to do was not be working at the job in Calgary that she did not like. She wanted to move out to an acreage or a small town where there's more room, quieter, room for the dogs. And so that was why she was looking to sell her house, which was worth about $480,000 or $400,000. I'm sorry, $400,000. And in the conversation, when our student says, well, what do you really need out of this house? The owner said, I need $60,000. I need $60,000. That's what it'll take me to move out. I've got a place picked out. I can move out. There's a job close by. That's what I need to get out of this house. So value is $400,000. The mortgage that she had was $220,000. So our student says, okay, how about if I take over your mortgage payments, pay the taxes, pay the insurance, and all the maintenance on the property, and also I will pay you $60,000. So the total of that is $280,000, and the value is $400,000. And the lady said, you know, that sounds good to me. That's what I need. And our student went, really? Not expecting the seller to say that. So because we talk about win-win and seller motivation, our student said, you know, you sell to me for $280,000. There's $120,000 roughly of equity in your property. You could do a lot better than selling to me for $280,000. In fact, what you should do is you should list this property with a realtor, and maybe you might get 110, 105. You'd probably at least get 100,000.
Over and above. Yeah.
Over and above. Over and above. And the young lady said, she kind of spat. My neighbor's a realtor. She's a bitch. I hate her. Oh, sorry. I wouldn't use a realtor if they were the last, hates realtors. Okay, fine. Well, what about, what about renting it out? What about getting another mortgage on it? Bump your mortgage up, get your 60,000, rent it out. You probably could maybe even be positive cash flow and still have what you want as your place in the country. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do that. It'd be no good with that. I hate tenants. I lived in a house. Tenants destroy houses. Well, what about your family? I mean, you're in trouble. Maybe they can give you a hand. I don't talk to my family very much. Okay. So the deal closed on the basis of an agreement for sale where our client put up $60,000 and got a loan from the seller equal to the $220,000 mortgage.
Sounds like they were given every opportunity to get out.
Yes.
But they still wanted that deal.
That's the don't take advantage of people. I mean, yeah. We do say if you can see that somebody has another option that would be better for them, you should at least talk about it. Now, maybe you lose the deal. But often it happens just exactly as I've described here, because that lady's motivation was to get out. And here's the kicker on win-win. Our student says to the seller, am I the only person you chatted with on this? And she says, oh, no. I called lots of people. Lots of people advertise that they can help and solve problems and buy houses fast. But all of them were mean. All of them were trying to steal the property from me. They were mean to me. And you were the only one who treated me decently. So that's why I decided to sell to you.
Yeah.
So you can't account for seller motivation. You can't account for a seller who's going to throw away $100,000 just because they can't do the things that if it was you, Denise, you'd have 3 solutions to that problem. You would never have yourself in that situation. And you also can't account for how powerful it is to treat somebody decently and actually try to help them and solve the problems.
That is what it all boils down to. When you can help somebody with their problems, and again, that extra knowledge that you can gain from knowing the various strategies, it makes you so much more valuable in the sense of being able to help somebody else out, because there will be one strategy or another that you're going to be able to apply, whether it's buying a property or sometimes even exiting a property. And you should know whenever you get a property is know how you're going to get out of that property. You don't ever want to get stuck, right? So
that's correct.
I mean, I love it because there's so many advantages to the agreements for sale. And sometimes they can actually close a lot quicker than you can even on a regular just purchase and sale that you're doing, because it can actually work pretty quick because it's between 2 parties. You do need lawyers. Yeah. Absolutely. You need lawyers, one for the buyer and one for the seller. And I know, Barry, that a few years ago, we had been working on an agreement for sale ourselves in Ottawa. And it was tough because we didn't have the lawyers that were supporting it.
Yeah.
And it's because so many lawyers were not aware of this. Is that actually an old strategy is what it is. And you've explained that even at the beginning, it's an old strategy.
Yeah. So,
but what I like is that more and more lawyers are becoming more familiar with this, which is going to make it easier for people. And I think even on the course on Friday, on Saturday, that is on April 1st, I think you mentioned that there are several Ontario lawyers that will be attending as well, just so that it becomes more knowledge out there to be able to help everybody out, be it the seller or the buyer.
Well, you're right, Denise, that has been a problem in Ontario with the lack of knowledge, and the confused mind says no. And
That's
when
right.
a lawyer is asked to advise his client, if he doesn't understand what's going on and says no, he probably will never get sued for saying no, even though maybe that wasn't very good advice. But we actually have at least 5 lawyers who have signed up for Saturday, April 1st in Toronto. That'll go along with the other lawyers that we already have. So we're now developing a nice group of lawyers who will understand this. And of course, they'll represent their clients' interests the way they can, but they won't reject the notion of an agreement for sale out of hand because they don't know what it is. Yeah. They'll try and make it work for their client the best they can.
I love it because when you talk to sort of older or more experienced lawyers of many years, or even mortgage brokers, a lot of them would know them, I believe, as a long close.
Yeah, they call it kind of a long form deal, and an extended closing or a long closing. But whatever you call it, if it's seller financing, it's if it isn't a VTB, it's an agreement for sale.
That's right. So, I mean, this is absolutely wonderful. And I hope, I know there's only a few days away, but people still have the opportunity to be able to join in on the course on Saturday. It is in Toronto, which is great to get to no matter where you are in Ontario. And basically, if you want to get in, why don't you just send us a direct message to Denise and Stuart, where you can find us Denise and Stuart on Facebook or Denise and Stuart on Instagram. Just ask us for the link and a special code to give you a discount to be able to attend.
Excellent.
Which would be awesome. It's just too long to put here with all these alphabet letters. So we thought it's just easier. Just send us a message. We'll send you the link and the code. So it'll be great. And I think the more people that are knowledgeable about this, the better it's going to be for everybody. Because I think with just the economic conditions that we have been going through, and like you say, a bit of the market slump, even though we're getting into the spring and there's always a little bit of revival, you're already hearing that some people may be having some troubles, and this is just a way to be able to resolve problems that others are having.
Yeah, it's a great strategy. It'll be lots of fun on Saturday. We feed everybody with great meals. You don't have to go running around. There's lots of documents and contracts and examples and exercises and recordings that you get the full recording post event, a 300-page manual, and about 6 experts, each who have done at least 20 agreements for sale each. So there'll be all of the stories about how these deals actually work from real deals, and we're going to be happy to present all those on Saturday.
I know I'm really looking forward to it because Stuart and I will be attending also in Toronto. Even though we've been at some of your courses before, we still enjoy, going there. We always pick up, new things. It's always, it's continuous learning. There's always new things to learn. But again, I would invite anybody who can make it to Toronto on Saturday to actually be there and get this extra tool that you can add to your real estate, investor tool belt, because it definitely is giving, or it will give you a competitive advantage over other investors when you yourself have these extra strategies that you can employ. And again, it's all about, helping others. For me, that's been one of the things we do, but be able to resolve those situations where somebody is in dire need of help. That's always a good feeling. Not only do you yourself, gain more in your portfolio, but you're helping somebody else get out of the problems that they have, and sometimes even getting underwater, which nobody likes to see, right? So
no, that's all exactly how it is, Denise, for sure.
Yeah. So this is seller financing. It's happening Saturday, April 1st in Toronto. Just ask us for the information. We'll gladly send you the link. There's information on the link, but there's also obviously there's a place to put in a code if you'd like to attend, but it's the perfect time now because Barry, I don't know if we mentioned at the beginning, Barry, you're actually situated in Edmonton and you're coming out to Toronto because you've been doing this for so many years that you've been teaching this. You have done.
And we do not get to Toronto very often. The last time we were there was over 4 years ago. So this, who knows when we're coming back. We have no plans to come back after this one. So this will be your chance, folks. Don't miss it.
That's right. So, hey, if you're looking for a new strategy, a creative approach, that is going to help you in these market conditions. It's also going to help you with increased profitability. It can give you a stronger portfolio, but just grow your knowledge so you can recognize these opportunities when they happen. And I think you'll be very happy with what's going to be happening on Saturday, and you're going to have all the tools necessary for you. So I just want to say thank you so much, Barry. I'm looking forward to actually seeing you on Saturday, and it's always a pleasure to spend time with you, to talk with you, because, well, real estate is fun to talk about.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, Denise. We'll see you on Saturday, both you and Stuart, and Don, of course, will be there, and we'll renew old acquaintances and give everybody a great program. I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. So Stuart is just going to run the last ticker tape there, and basically all it is just send us a direct message at Denise and Stuart and just ask us for the link and the special discount code, and we'll see you on Saturday. Take care, and thanks again, Barry. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Denise. Good night.